Gary, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Not too bad.
Okay.
Not too bad. We have a game against Haifa underdogs in few hours. In 6 hours, kickoff is. So.
Are you the manager now, or?
No. I'm still playing.
Oh, you're a player.
Yeah, I'm still playing. Yeah.
Oh, you have a helmet and all that.
Yeah, with full gear. Yeah. Full gear. Yep.
What happened to the baseball leagues over there? Do they still have a?
Listen, the baseball team. First of all, there is a baseball league. I don't know what's going on with it. I'm not following it.
Oh,
it's even, I think, less popular than football in Israel, and neither of which are very popular in Israel.
I heard that the trouble with baseball is people come and picnic in center field.
It might be, might be. I'm not an expert on what's going on in the baseball league in Israel. In any case, that's the.
So you're playing against Haifa today.
We're playing against Haifa. Like, just between you and me, it is not. It's not going to end with us winning.
Oh, that's not that spirit.
Yeah, they're a very well trained team. We are not even playing with our second QB. Our first QB is injured. Our second QB was drafted to the military yesterday. He is 19-year-old, so he got. It is his time to protect us. So we are playing with a QB who is older than I am, which we brought back from retirement. Yeah. So
what position do you play?
I play center.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'm not running anywhere. Unless it's a run play, and even then, I'm not really running. I'm pushing people. So
like playing catcher in baseball.
Yeah. So I'm not. But that's that. Haifa is a very well trained team. They're actually their head coach is the head coach for the national team as well.
Oh wow.
They are not the most talented team in the league. They never are, but they are usually the most well trained, well prepared team. They work well, and they have good talent, but their achievements are not based on their talent. They have more talent than we have currently, but their advantage is not their talent. So that's a little bit about Haifa underdogs. If you're placing bets on Israeli Football League, not that I don't think there is any place in the world you can do that. You got my insider.
Inside dope.
About it, right. So we are starting chapter 4. Chapter 4 is a very interesting chapter. It's the last chapter of the book of Ruth, and let's start with the first verses, and then we'll talk a little bit about the chapter and what we have in this chapter and how everything comes together again in this idea of the book of Ruth that balances between what seems to be very, things happening naturally and the notion of these naturally occurring things being divinely ordained. So go ahead. Let's see verse 1.
Uvoaz Allah Ashar Vayeshev Sham
Vayeshev Sham.
Vayeshev Sham Vehine Hagoel Uver Asher Diber Boaz Vayomer Surah Shavat Po Ploni Al Moni Vayasar Vayeshev
Vayeshev.
Vayeshev. What's that little line there under the shin?
Shiv. Yeah, Vayeshev.
Vayeshev. I see that little line. I don't want to say Vayeshev.
Exactly.
Vayeshev.
No,
Vayeshev. Okay, got it.
Usually Vayeshev, here Vayeshev.
Okay. Vayikach Vasara Anashim
Asar Anashim.
Anashim Mizik Ne Ha'ir Vayomer Shavupo Vayashevu
Vayeshevu.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
So
Now Boaz went up to the gate,
yeah,
and sat down there, and behold, the close relative of whom Boaz spoke was passing by. So he said, "Turn aside, friend, sit down here."
right. And he, right, go ahead.
And he turned aside and sat down.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about what we have here as far as this fourth act of the book. Remember, the book of Ruth is written like a play, and the fourth chapter is like the fourth act of that play. We can see very interestingly that things are falling to place serendipitously, if you will. Okay, Boaz went up to the field. Again, remember that Naomi said he will not rest until he finishes this matter today. So we're talking about the day immediately immediately following that night, right? Chapter 3 ends up with Naomi reassuring Ruth Boaz will take care of things immediately. And that leads us to the scene where Boaz is indeed taking care of things. Okay?
Okay.
Now, you can see the structure as far as the syntax here. Look, what is the regular structure of a biblical Hebrew narrative past sentence, Ron?
I didn't hear your question. Say it again.
What is the regular structure for a biblical Hebrew narrative past verse? So how do you write something happened? Okay, how do you?
I write the verb first, followed by the subject.
Right. So yeah, we have the verb, and it's usually a Victor. Okay. Again, verb Victor first, right? Victor verb first. But here we have, instead of Victor verb opening the close, we have end. Vx, which is the subject, followed by a katal. Do you see this structure?
Yes.
Usually this structure, when we see such a structure, we have to ask ourselves, okay, just a second. There is something here that is different than the regular narrative structure. Okay? It's not the regular vital then the subject, but rather we have and X followed by katal. Okay, specifically here, third person masculine, singular of the katal of the root ayin lamed and yod. Okay, or ayin lamed and hey in the lexicons. The changing of the conjugation as well as the word order may stem from various reasons. Okay, it can either be syntactical, it can either be programmatic, literary, okay, and it can be for other purposes as well. So pragmatically, we want to focus on Boaz. This is called topicalization, okay, or focalization. We want to make clear what is the topic of the sentence and what is the topic of the sentence, which is not always the subject. In this case, the subject we are putting first. So we want to focus on it. We want to put it at the beginning of the sentence. Okay? By the way, funny enough, this idea comes from English pragmatics, and there they talk about left and right. And so and obviously in Hebrew the terms are opposite, because you move something to the beginning of the sentence, you move it right, you don't move it left. But sometimes people use these terms because they come from English grammar. So the terminology of kind of left and right is opposite to what we do in Hebrew. In any case, that's one reason. Okay. Secondly, it also is used in biblical Hebrew to show plusquamperfectum, past perfect, or to show something that happens around the same time. So remember early in the morning, before people even recognize each other, what happened? Ruth went home. And to mark that Boaz is not waiting a long time. Early in the morning, Boaz already went to the gate. So we were with Ruth and Naomi in the house of Naomi. We've seen that scene. We want to tell you that possibly when shifting to this scene, okay, this might have already happened when they split ways. She went to Naomi's house, and Boaz, around the same time, maybe went to the gate. So, Uvaz ala hashar vayeshev sham. He went to the gate and waited there and sat there. You can see that Boaz is in his element. We'll see everybody is doing what he says that they should do. Everybody is listening to him, to his authority, but he is not, it seems that he is not ordering people, is not abusing that authority, but he is following the common law, okay? And it's very interesting to see the relationship between the law and the redemption of Naomi. Okay, so Boaz is doing this alongside Ruth's and Naomi discussion at the house. Okay, so Uvaz ala hashar, and then we go back to the Vayktol Vayeshev Sham. Okay, right. Vehine. What did we say about the word vehine?
All of a sudden,
Means
Right, it means all of a sudden. Okay, suddenly. And we said that this is a word when we've talked about divine intervention in the book of Ruth, unit 9. We said that oftentimes this word literally means a coincidence. It doesn't say, oh, and God sent the kinsman redeemer. But the fact that as Boaz said there, the right guy, is passing there in the right place at that time is the type of divine implicit intervention that we see in the book of Ruth. So, Vehine hagoel over, the one of which Boaz spoke, Asher diber Boaz. Okay, so suddenly, exactly, the kinsman redeemer of whom Boaz spoke was passing by. Okay, both Goel and Over, what is the form of these two words? Ron?
which ones?
These two, Goel and Over.
Okay, let's see. That's is that PL?
What is the conjugation? None of them is a PL.
Okay, I'm sorry. Over, aser. Is that a pronoun? Whom?
Just a second. I'm asking about the word Goel and the word Over.
I'm looking at the wrong. Where am I looking at then? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm too far back. Okay. Hago
I underlined both of them in red.
Yeah, I see it. Goel. Goel. I don't know. Conjugation.
You do know
I do.
what's the most common Jewish last name?
no big chocolate Oreo lasagna.
Oh, how do you say that? Is that
Kohen.
Kohen? Okay, priest.
Right. So Kohen, Goel, Over. Can you see how they all share the same structure?
Yes, I do see that.
This is the Hebrew masculine singular active kal participle.
Okay.
Okay. So Goel and Over are both participles. Gary, how do they differ in the use of these? The use of these two, even though they're both participles, they're used differently. How are they used?
By the way, my screen turned black. Oh, there it
It's
is.
back.
Hagoel is the relative, right?
Right.
And Over is crossing by.
Right, and yet both of these are participles because the participle can be used as
So all of a sudden, as I say in business, just in time, the relative is crossing by his path.
right, and
Is that the reason why I see the Tiamin pointing there toward the left?
which reason for what?
On the word Hagoel. See the accent mark?
Yeah, the Hagoel. This is called Mahpach.
Matach. Okay.
Mahpach, and it connects
the two.
Connects to the following words.
Okay.
Okay. והנה הגואל עובר אשר דיבר בועז. The point of both Hagoel and Over are both participles. Hagoel, the participle, is serving as a noun. You can see the definite article before that. Okay? And you wouldn't have a definite article before a verb.
Right.
And over is serving as kind of a verb describing the action of Hagoel simultaneously to Boaz, to that of Boaz. So Boaz went up to the gate and sat there, and behold, the kinsman redeemer was passing by, showing us a simultaneously done action, in this case in the past. So in Hebrew, there is no way to, or no morphological way to mark the difference between is passing by, was passing by, or will be passing by. It's all related to the other actions in the context. Okay? So if we were to see a movie of Boaz sitting and seeing the kinsman redeemer passing by, he would say, Hine hagoel over. And the same would go for describing it in the past tense, right? When we have a story about it now. ובועז עלה עכשיו, וישב שם, והנה הגואל עובר. So it was passing by, is passing by, and even will be passing by, which is not as common in context as the other two, is possible to be expressed that way. By the way, different than modern Hebrew. Modern Hebrew uses what we call participle as a present tense. So in modern Hebrew, the sentence would be different. Okay, the morphology would be different. Okay. Hagoel over asher diber Boaz, also interesting. Asher diber Boaz, how do we call these clauses that open with asher?
I know who you're talking about. She's the one who yelled, "Hey, you!"
Closes.
These are relative clauses. Okay, they modify noun and function like a big adjective, essentially. So hagoel over asher diber Boaz. This relative clause is modifying which noun? Which noun?
Boaz.
Come again?
Boaz.
No.
Oh.
It modifies a different noun. What is the noun?
The bard.
The what?
That's a verb, isn't it?
No. What is the noun modified by this relative clause? The relative clause is asher diber Boaz, of which Boaz spoke. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is the noun modified by that?
Is it Hagoel? I'm going back.
It's exactly, very good. Hagoel is modified by asher diber Boaz.
I was throwing up because I was looking for the similar vowel marks. I didn't see them.
My point here in regards to this, that this is quite unusual for biblical.
Okay.
Why? Because the relative clause in Hebrew as in English usually comes directly after the noun. Okay, it modifies. Okay, I bought the car that accelerates from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. So I didn't really remember, I'm a teacher. So essentially the sentence, the clause that accelerates from 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds,
The car
is a relative clause modifying the car. And it is usually found directly after it. Here you can see something quite unusual where we have the participle over separating between the noun and the relative clause modifying it. Okay. If you want the grammatical term, the relative clause is extraposed. Okay. It is not directly after that noun, but there is the noun over, the participle over intervening between the two. Yomer, Suva Seva Po Peloni Almoni. He said, turn aside, sit here, Peloni Almoni. What is Peloni Almoni? What is the meaning of Peloni and Almoni?
Oh,
That's my Peloni. Is that my friend?
No.
The ending. I'm looking at the ending there.
Peloni Almoni. So it's a good question. What is Peloni Almoni? There are different explanations. In any case, it is when you don't have a specific detail of a name of a person or a place. The root Pe Lamed Yod, as you know, could be difficult or something that is unknown. Okay. That's Pe Lamed Yod, Peloni, and Almoni might be related to Aleph Lamed Mem, which has to do with a mute. A person who is mute is Ilem in biblical Hebrew. Okay, so Peloni Almoni is unknown or unknown mute. Okay, it's the biblical Hebrew way of saying John Doe, but it comes probably from Pei Lamed Aleph or Pei Lamed Yod and Aleph Lamed Mem. Each root, again, Pei Lamed Yod has to do with difficult or covered, unknown, and Aleph Lamed Mem has to do with mute, silent. Okay? Vayasar Vayeshev. So the kinsman redeemer doesn't know why, but he does exactly what he was told. Surah Sheva Po Vayasar Vayeshev. By the way, again, note that we have longer imperatives here. Surah and Sheva. The regular imperatives would be Sur and Shev. What's the difference between the long imperative and the short imperative?
Between.
What's the difference between Sur and Surah, Shev and Sheva?
Oh, the gender.
No. The gender would be, when talking to a woman, it would be Suri.
You're right.
V. So what is Surah and Sheva?
The olive hay at the end.
Come again?
The patach hay at the end.
The kamatz hay is the right. The
What you're talking
kamatz hay is the difference, but why do we have that difference? So one of my teachers at the Hebrew University wrote about it in 1999, and it was quite revolutionary in regards to solving this mystery. Okay. He noted that whenever we see this additional kamatse at the end of the imperative, is when the action of the verb is directed toward the speaker. So when Boaz says, sit here, rather than just sit or sit over there, sit here, it is very reasonable to be accompanied by surah, by the at the end. Okay, so surah and shiva. Okay,
So that would that actually be turn here and sit here?
it would be, yeah, turn to here and sit over here or sit
Okay.
here. I'm sending you, if it is of interest for you, the paper I've mentioned.
Right.
Okay. Right. Stephen Fosberg, the lengthened imperative Kotla in biblical Hebrew studies, 40. Yeah. He is a great expert on Aramaic and on Hebrew, and he wrote a book about biblical Hebrew syntax and many papers and many books, and generally one of the leading scholars of Hebrew in Israel and in the world, and he is a member of the Academy for the Hebrew Language. Yeah, Professor Stephen Fastberg, American born. Yeah, the name Stephen. Yeah. Okay. Let's see verse 2, Ron.
I'm sorry, I was writing that down. All right. Let's see, what's verse 2 start? Oh, there it is. Vayakak. See, Vayakak. Osa.
Asara.
Oh, Asara. Anashim. Mitsu. That Mitsu. Mitsukne.
Mizikne, right?
Mitsukne. Ha'ir. Vayomer. Shivufo. Vayeshevu. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, sit down here. And so they sat down.
Okay. Very good. Why is he taking 10 men?
10 men is a quorum, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a quorum. We also use it as a minyan today as a minimal quorum. 10 men. These like the elders of the city would be witnesses. The word for, believe it or not, the word for witness in Akkadian is the word for is related to the word for old person in Hebrew.
I just did a study on that 10.
Oh, and the number 10, right?
Yeah, Abraham, God negotiated down to 10 people.
Right, and God
10
negotiating
spies.
all the way from 50 to 10 because you have 5 cities.
Right.
So you start with 50, right? And the 10 spies, right? Out of the 12 spies, you had 10 spies who were against going to the land of that God gave the people of Israel.
Right,
so it says the bad company. So company means 10. Okay, because Joshua and Caleb were not part of the bad guys there. Yeah, go ahead.
I speculated. This is just speculating. I speculated once that if Noah had just another son or another daughter-in-law, maybe no flood.
Maybe. Good thing I have 6 kids, not 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So 10 men, and he again instructs them to, to come over, and everybody is listening to him. He doesn't say why, not to the Goel, not to these men, which shows that he is like running the show. Nobody's asking why. He says, come here, they come. He says, jump, they say, how high? Okay? That's very interesting. It shows that Boaz is running the show. Okay? So, and the language is very short. Sit here, turn here and sit. Vayasa vayeshev. Sit here, and they sat. Nobody's asking, everybody is following orders. Very short. Okay? And also the men, he took them, right? Vayikach. They are passive. He's active. Okay, the root is lamed kofchet, very common, very frequent root for taking. Also, very irregular, behaving like a peinun. Okay, very good. So that's what we see in these verses, and then let's see the next verse. Gary,
Before I go, I want to ask a question.
go ahead.
The relative. Does the relative recognize Boaz or not? Does he perceive him as a stranger, or does he know who he is?
No. I think he is. He recognizes Boaz, and he recognizes Boaz's authority. You know,
Okay.
I think it's clear in verse 1 and 2 that he is running the show. Okay.
Yeah, but when he calls him an empty.
No, I don't think that he calls. What I think is, okay, let's assume this. Let's assume we would not have had any mentioning of the name. Okay,
Yeah.
we would have like this. Vayomer surah sheva po, vayasar vayeshev. That would be very similar to what we have here. Vayikach 10 anashim miziknei ha'ir, vayomer shevu po, vayeshevu. So we have, your question is a good question, but it's only halfway there to the ultimate question. The ultimate question is to think of the possibility that the other possibility was not to mention the name at all, but here he is mentioning like a name.
Okay,
And-
so we don't want to distinguish a person with a name if they're not a major player in this play.
Coming in?
We're not going to distinguish anyone who's not a major player by giving their name.
Moreover, I think that there is a specific decision to mention the fact that he turned to him by name, and yet to conceal that name.
I mean, if the same thing happened in chapter 1, Naomi's sons, we never hear their real names.
Just a second. Here, he doesn't call him Peloni Almoni when he refers to him. He goes by and he says, "Oh, Gary Epstein, come here." Okay, but we are told John Doe.
Yeah.
Okay, he knows him, and they know each other. But there is an intentional decision to conceal the identity, not to tell us the identity of this person. Why do you think, guys? If you think of the overall context,
Building up the contrast between Boaz and the rest of the people in the play.
okay, that's definitely part of it, but I think there is more to it. So you're right. We are by not mentioning other players, we are and keeping Boaz named. We are focusing on Boaz. That is correct. This is a technique that is used, but I think here specifically, we could have just left him as Hagoel. It doesn't answer the question of why do we choose to say he had a name and to conceal it.
So if someone is narrating a story and telling a story, there's no reason for him to give a name.
Yeah, but just a second. We why do you? We could have had something here. Surah Shevapo Vayasam Vayeshev. We know it's the kinsman redeemer. We don't have to say he called him by name, but I won't tell you the name.
Yeah, okay. I got
So
it.
the reason for that, I think, is to give him a taste of his own medicine, right? He refused to establish the name of his relatives by refusing to marry Ruth and to lehakim shem hamet al nachalato, to make the name of the deceased stand over his possession. Okay, so his own name was intentionally also taken out of the story. Okay,
So in other words, he might want to save his relative from embarrassment from his own wife that he had at the time.
it might be, but I think again the choice here is to say he did not make the name of his relative stand, and his name is also concealed.
Yeah,
Okay,
I saw that one translation calls him such and such. Doesn't even say it at all.
right, such and such, so and so, John Doe.
Yeah,
That's the translation.
okay.
Yeah.
Vayomer LaGoel Chelkat Asadeh Asher La'achinu Le'Elimelech
Le'Elimelech, right?
Le'Elimelech Machra Naomi Hashava Misdei Moab Vani Marti Egle Aznecha
Oznecha,
Le More Kene Neged Hayoshvim Vaneged Ziknei Ami Im Tigal Gaal Ve'imlo Yigal Hagida Li Ve'eda Ki Ein Zulatacha Lig Ol Ve'anochi Acharecha Vayomer Anochi Eg Al. Okay.
okay. So here, let's start with verse 3. Vayomer LaGoel חלקת השדה אשר לאחינו לאלימלך, מכרה נעמי השבה משדה מואב. So, we have the first element in the words. Usually in a direct speech, we commonly have the subject, then the verb, then the object in a direct speech. Sometimes we may have the verb, then the subject, then the object. But the element here that is first is neither the verb nor the subject. What is the element that we first have here?
The direct object.
It's the object, right? חלקת השדה אשר לאחינו לאלימלך. The plot of the field, or the field, which is of Asher le'achinu le'Elimelech. Again, a relative clause modifying that field, belonging to our brother Elimelech. Why do we have this first? This is what we called before topicalization. And here it's a very interesting example because the topic of the sentence is not the subject of the sentence. Okay, do you see what I'm saying? Usually we tend to think of the subject as the topic, and usually it works nicely. So I went shopping, I am the subject and the topic of the sentence. Okay? But here, the focal point, the topic, the field as the topic, even though the subject is Naomi. Okay, they're talking about the field. So they're putting it first. You know that field of Elimelech, the one which Naomi is selling now? Okay, then so and so. We do that in English as well. Okay? The car which I'm selling is a very good car. Again, which I am, you see, okay. So that's a topicalization. Va'ani amarti. Okay. Here, amarti, I decided, I said, means I thought. And we've talked about examples for that in the past. So I thought it should be, I should tell you this. By the way, note Achinu Elimelech. Okay. Achinu does not literally mean our brother, right? It's our fellow man. But the rabbis have made it into brother. So the rabbis, some of the rabbinical homiletical commentary say that Elimelech was and the kinsman redeemer, they were all brothers. Okay, so that's the rabbis again.
Would they be getting that? Would they be getting that from the Torah, where the
No,
Redeemer
no.
mitzvah? Okay.
Oh yeah, sure. We've mentioned it, and we'll mention it again in the future. We've talked a little bit about that in the past. The kinsman redeemer in Deuteronomy 25.
I mean, I was just wondering, would the rabbis be taking that commandment and using that to bring understanding to this passage, saying they were brothers?
Oh, no. I think that this is not because of Deuteronomy. I think that this is because the use of here, le'achinu. But you might be correct as well. Ki yeshevu achim yachdav. When brothers dwell together. Right. Okay, I want to move on to the grammatical part, and we'll go back to this next time, or the week after that. PL is characterized by a dagesh in the second root letter and a vowel following the first root letter. That is the characteristic of the doubled stem in general, PL, pual, and hitbael. And you can see all throughout the declension here. Kitev, kitavta, kiteva, yechatev, techatevna, yechatevu, katev, katevna, and katevi. You can see the dagesh in the second root letter. How do I know that this is a strong dagesh? It follows a vowel. Remember, a strong dagesh follows a vowel. Very important characteristic of the double stem that is oftentimes not mentioned. The double stem verbs always have a vowel following the first root letter. Okay, so kitev, kitavta, kiteva, yechatev, techatevna, yechatevu, katev, katevna, katevi, and the same goes for these forms here. Achat teva, yechatev, katev, katov, katev, mechatev. They all have that doubling of the second root letter, and the vowel following the first root letter. Okay. So again, in the katal we see the e, in the yiktol we see the a under the first root letter, but as long as there is a vowel, that's what it is. As far as the use of the PL, so they took, oftentimes the PL or the double stem is considered to be more intensive. This is kind of a very catch-all basket category. Sometimes, more specifically, we're talking about an action that is done multiple times or to multiple objects. Think of the gleaning. Vatelech vatavo vatelaket basadeh. When you glean, it's not a one-time action, but you do it like you glean. You take from several times, several things. Okay, that's the PL. Causative. Sometimes the PL has a causative sense to it. Okay, lekayem here in the book of Ruth, lekayem kol davar, to cause something to stand, to confirm. That's in a sense causative. Sometimes the PL is used as a transitive of intransitive kal verbs. Okay, when we want to have a kal verb taking an object, we change it to the PL. Okay, so kala was finished. You want to say someone finished something, you make it a PL. Kila. So adim kilu et kol hakatzir asher li. Okay, so kala would be finished. Kila, he finished something. Okay, so the PL would serve as the transitive. Okay. Frequent verbs of the PL we've seen with the root dalet bet and reish, to speak. Okay, that's very common. To bless, yevarechecha Adonai, we've seen. Okay, that's also very common with the PL. And I will see you again next week, guys.
Okay.
Okay, have a good week, a good game there.